1. Everybody, Wellness Week Live. What's up? I am your host, DJ Anthony, with my co-host, the PhD Magnus in Biochem. I'm the DJ. By the way, we're just two friends talking. We're not giving any medical advice. Always check with your healthcare professionals. But today's show, CTE. So what is CTE? How do you get CTE? How do you treat CTE? What to look for if you think someone has CTE? So we hear, Magnus, CTE, especially as it pertains to particularly football athletes and boxers. But basically, so what CTE is, if you don't know, folks that are watching, so CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and that is brain damage. So, Magnus, I at the bookends, yes, if you do no sports, okay, you're going to have a very low chance of CTE. And if you do boxing, you're going to have a high chance of CTE. But what about the middle, I was thinking? What about if you play soccer and the soccer ball undoubtedly is going to hit you in the head? No neurosurgeon is going to say, yeah, that's great. You need to have a soccer ball hit you in the head once in a while. It's great. So there's a gradient here. How much risk are you willing to take? Because you have parents that are like, we're not going to play football, or wrestling or boxing. Fair enough. And you think soccer is safe? But that's okay to have your kid get hit in the head 5 times a year, 4 times a year. That's okay. Yeah. No, your brain never wants to get hit ever. Yeah. So if you want to protect your children, do cross country, do track and field.
That could be dangerous too, unfortunately.
Well, you could trip and hit your head. Right.
Yeah.
Don't do sports. Do crocheting. Do dramatic arts, which I was involved in dramatic arts. It's very sports-like. You learn how to work with teamwork. You learn how to work with people. You learn discipline. But there's, you're not getting any contact. But some of these parents make me laugh because they think it's all safe to be in soccer and it's all safe to, be in basketball. Those are contact sports. Head trauma. I'm sorry. You don't have to. People think like CTE is just like when you get knocked out or you get punched 10 times, like, yes, that's CTE, or CTE high, raises the risk. But what about a soccer ball hitting you in the head? Like, that's good. That's good. That's okay. Like, it's not good. Nothing.
You don't even need to hit your head.
Just shaking hard. Yeah.
A fall or whatever that actually shakes your brain could be. Like looking at it,
whiplash,
gymnastics, figure skating, things like that. All these things are dangerous. And worst case scenario, things could happen rather rapidly too.
By the way, you bring up a good point. I didn't think about that. So you heard what Magnus said, folks. And this is a guy who has a PhD in biochemistry. He's an athlete. You do not have to hit your head. So basically a whiplash effect, just moving your head quickly. Your brain is floating in that cerebral fluid. And yes, hitting your head is not good, but moving your head very quickly, that could be also detrimental in a very micro way. But do you want micro damage, which leads to more damage? So really, how far do you want to take this? So you're going to assume some risk, even if your kid is doing track and field or something where your head is bouncing all the time. It doesn't have to be boxing per se. So I think parents think like, well, if my kid's not boxing and doing American football, then we're fine. Wrong. So my point is this: cost benefit analysis. A sport, even soccer, although soccer is dangerous for your brain, but how much good is it? It's good for your heart, good for your muscles, good for discipline, good for your general health. So I would say the positives outweigh the negatives, but there's negatives there. Don't think, parents, just because you're playing soccer, you're safe. You're not. So anyways, but
I think that you bring out a good point. It comes down to risk reward, right? And I think that a lot of the rewards fairly outweigh the risks. And it's also like, that's why it's important that if you're a parent and your kids are involved in sport, like, go to practice once in a while if you're allowed to, and be quiet.
Yeah.
Like, just be there and observe. Look what the trainers are. You should actually interview the coaches and trainers before you let your kid run off, and see what they're doing, what their kind of fundamental mindset is about, and how they train and all those things.
Right. The Magnus, you played American football, so did I, and you played on a higher level than me. But I coached high school football and stuff like that. And I would say the rules and regulations are much safer nowadays too. I would actually
Oh
not.
yes.
I would not discourage a young person from playing American football. I would encourage them, but be educated about it. And there's a lot more the NFL can do and colleges and high schools can do. I think they can develop better helmets. The helmets are getting better, but I think they can make better helmets. And I think also with the new protocols that are in place, I think this. I think if you're playing American football and you have a teenager who's 14 years old, right? They're playing American football. I would say if they get a concussion confirmed, then they're out for the season. I would not let them play the rest of the season. It's over.
Yeah,
I
I
think
got that mindset too nowadays. I mean, like because that's the problem with the brain. It takes way longer for your brain to recover
right.
than even if you might look like, okay, no symptoms and things like that. And I think that the NFL, of course, because we're talking about a billion-dollar industry, they're definitely rushing. And players are in mind, like I have to say, players are pretty stupid too, because they want to play. Most of them love the sports, and they don't want to, like in the NFL, they don't want to run the risk of basically getting fired.
Right.
So they want to get back on the field as quickly as possible. I think that is something that we shouldn't be doing, but we have to take it slow and smart.
And
like
by the way,
said, go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you. No. I mean, and we're saying American football, but again, basketball, soccer. I mean, what if your kid gets a concussion once in soccer? I would say that season's over till next year.
Yeah. And again, same thing with hockey. Hockey
is
definitely like way behind when it comes to padding and things like that. And also remember, hockey is played on you're on an ice surface, which is harder than grass and turf, and you have a rink around you that is also like it's hard plastic, and like running your helmet into it, which is not made as robust as a football helmet. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
But you have the other thing, Magnus, and this is not our problem, but there are young men and women out there. Their only way out of their bad situation is hockey, is basketball, is football, is soccer. And you know what? Under those circumstances, I'm all for it. You know what? It's a positive. Play American football, play soccer, play basketball, play hockey, because the alternative is jail or death. You know what? Life sometimes there's no good and bad decisions. It's bad and horrible decisions. So you go with the bad, not the horrible. I can understand that.
Yeah, looking at it, I mean, again, sports could be like the only stable thing that they have in their life, and the coach could be a father or a mother figure for them, right? And that is maybe like way more important than running any risk of actually having brain damage, right? Like, but again, risk and reward. Again, I'm the same way. I mean, talk to the kids, talk to the coaches, see, like, be involved if you're a parent, and see what goes on. I mean, again, one thing leads to another. I think that kids should be involved in as many different types of sports as possible, because they becomes better athletes, and they also don't get burned out early.
Yeah. And by the way, if you say, oh, well, I don't want my kid to play soccer or basketball because it could be a head injury, that's a nice luxury to have, again, because if you're poor, you don't have that luxury. You have to play these sports because you need money for college, or maybe you need money to get out of your bad town or city so you can have a life for your family. So, it's nice when you got a little extra money, when you can say, hey, I have the luxury of not playing soccer, the luxury of not playing football or boxing. That's nice. Nice place to be.
Yeah. So, again, remember, your kids might actually love the sport. So, and it's kind of tough to kind of hinder them sometimes from doing something that they love doing.
100%.
And kids are sneaky too. They end up in some way or form getting involved in those activities anyway.
100%. Well, they do a lot of flag football now for people that are the kids and teenagers. So that's a nice thing. There's no contact.
I think that is so much better, because you learn the basic movement patterns, and you learn the basic skills, catching, getting into a situation like for flag run, like which is basically being prepared to make a tackle without tackling.
Right.
And another thing that I would like to add too is like if your kids are involved in sports, actually try to get them involved in some type of strength training too.
Right.
I'm saying that young kids need to start, but they can still do body weight training and things like that.
Yeah.
But also be involved, like training your neck and shoulders
that
and things like that,
right,
to protect you if they're doing any type of contact sport. And that could even be something like you said, basketball, soccer, things like that.
Well, here's the funny thing, right? So some of these parents that say, no, I don't want my kid to play a sport at all. There's some parents like that. Okay, so sitting on the couch and having childhood obesity, because that's an absolute epidemic that's killing our children. Yeah. That's okay. That's fine. Having the heart damage, but it's come on, it's
Anthony. Again, something that we mentioned and we talk about a lot. It's like choose your heart. It's like again, diabetes. It's a horrendous disease, and there's many things. And I'm like, again, like you said, we're starting to see like child obesity is creeping down in earlier and earlier in age, and more and more people, like a percentage of the kids, are actually having this issue. And that's like talking about having a pandemic. That's a real pandemic too, and we're not talking about it and kind of like letting people, like it slides kind of like under the radar, which you shouldn't. This is something that we should talk about, like basically daily, to bring it up and talk about that. Now, I'm sorry I went off on a complete tangent down the wrong road here, but it's important. You bring up a really, really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, we're going to end this segment. We have another great show coming up, folks. Check it out, because we're going to be talking about this month is Diabetes Awareness Month. So check out that show coming up. Magnus, thank you. We're going to sign off, and 5, 4, 3,